Hello ladies and gents, welcome back to Chaos TV's live coverage of the Riot Turkey International Invitational 2. It is day 4 out of 7. This is the second and final quarterfinals, I should say, of tonight's proceedings, and it is going to be game 2 between Copenhagen Wolves and RoughNeX. As before, I am Metis, and I'm joined once again by Spuddington.
Alright, so fairly obvious bans coming in here. We have got the Vi, Orianna and Zed, which I believe is what Copenhagen Wolves went with last time thereabouts. And this time we've got two important picks from the last game, Elise and Kassadin. We mentioned it in the after-game lobby last time. RoughNeX banning those two champions out. Elise because they wanted to keep it out of the hands of Amazing, but picking it caused them to get shoved into a situation where they were facing in a one-on-one top lane Renekton versus Elise. Young Buck dominated that lane, and the other problem was the Kassadin in the mid lane in Kautard's hand being incredibly dangerous, and we've had a problem of some sort, but nobody has told me what it is.
Yes, it has gone deathly silent right now. Yeah, okay, we've just been told the last ban was supposed to be Renekton, so that is targeted against Young Buck at top lane. He also plays magnificently strong Vladimir, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see him pick up the Vlad this game. And now it appears that all of RoughNeX are leaving, so I have no idea, Spud, what is going on.
They're coming back?
It's just kind of like, okay, things are happening, and we have no idea why it was even abandoned in the first place. No one's actually said someone's had a client issue or anything, so we're kind of both in the dark right now.
Well, I think I know, actually, thinking about it. The reason that they've got them coming in a particular order is because that way, when we get into game, it will have their little scoreboard icons arranged in the correct order. If you look, you'll have the top laners matched up against each other, the junglers, then the mids, then the ADs, then the supports.
Ah, yes. And this is something at Riot. Obviously, they do have admins and they have their Turkish casters in as well. Constantly remind the players to make sure that you position yourselves in terms and in order of where you play. So, yeah, I think you're dead on there. Also, it's just been said by Mikey R. There was some client issues. He was clicking on Renekton 10 seconds before the timer and no ban happened. So that is another reason why we are in this position. Both teams are asking if they're ready. So fingers crossed we'll be ready to go back into the picks and bans very shortly.
Yeah, nothing much to say about the bans themselves, though. Renekton ban, not at all surprising. Keep that out of the hands of Young Buck at all costs. Same thing with basically picking out the Elise, getting rid of the Kassadin. Thing is, though, Vi and Orianna is just getting rid of that kind of little wombo combo and just a generally strong picks, but it's still leaving open Copenhagen Wolves Ari if they want her, and she is probably one of the most contested picks at the moment. Also, though, Aatrox and Jax available, and both of those would be perfectly valid pickups as well.
They definitely would be, and that's going to leave, well, surprise, surprise, Lee Sin is going to get locked in, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be on Amazing. Amazing and Shook. Shook, of course, was the initial jungler for Copenhagen Wolves, who has now left to join the quote-unquote super team in Europe. Amazing and Shook play very, very similar champions, very similar champion pool. So everyone knows that Shook's Lee Sin is amazing in EU West, and Amazing actually is pretty much along the same line, so I'm not too surprised to see that one being locked in straight away.
Yeah, so picking that out very, very quickly, RoughNeX have got a fair old while to choose their next positions. But the thing about leaving that Aatrox open now is that Copenhagen Wolves might want to take him for top lane. So RoughNeX don't want to just leave that open for a very, very long time. But at the same time, they don't want to commit their picking their early picks to that Aatrox unless they can avoid it, but they are actually just going to straight up take the Aatrox, get the Sona. Nice picks, but that is leaving open another couple of powerful picks. Amazing, hovering over the Thresh. Wouldn't be surprised to see it again, but if they did, I think they would go with Caitlyn again.
I don't see why they wouldn't, because Forgiven's Caitlyn's very strong, and it's also a strong combination at bot lane. It's something that Reckless used to use with Amazing as well, and it basically frees up Caitlyn and allows her to get free farm at bot lane. because Thresh has so much presence. His hooks, especially if his hooks land on Sona, that is going to spell doom for Nico. Although that being said, I was praising Nico's Sona last time around because he was just landing every crescendo, but it seems like Copenhagen Wolves are by and large answering your question for you, as they've already locked in the Thresh, and now there goes the Caitlyn. What I would say here though, Spurrington, is that a lot of champions are still on the table for Coutard. We've seen him play a very strong Ahri, Twisted Fate and Fizz. All three characters still available for him. Maybe it's a case that he wants to see what RoughNeX going to pick mid first and then try and counteract it.
Yeah, I think he may want RoughNeX to take out the Ahri. Ahri is the kind of obvious choice here. Very strong mid laner against pretty much everyone, and snowballs very hard if she gets ahead. Thing is, Ahri is not brilliant against Fizz, and as you mentioned, Coutard is very good at Fizz. If he gets that matchup, that will suit him down to the ground. Plus, with that aggressive jungler of Lee Sin, could get ugly, could get very ugly very fast. But RoughNeX aren't forced into picking that right now. They can still get that Corki if they want it, I believe. Indeed, they could do, but they are getting the Ahri. Okay. Are they going to go for Fizz? Come on, prove me right.
Mystic Spuddington strikes again. You're calling the Ahri and Corki lock-ins, and that's exactly what happened. So, nearly a carbon copy, and there's the Fizz. There's the Fizz. Now, not only did you get that, but we said earlier, before the Ahri was even picked up, Coutard's Fizz is amazing. It's sublime. And yet again, they've let another such a strong champion slip through their cracks. And the Jax as well. This is terrifying composition for Copenhagen Wolves.
Yeah, again, it feels like they've gotten an awful lot of really good champions right now. RoughNeX are basically now going to have to run the Aatrox in the jungle, which is fine. That's a very, very strong champion for them to have. And it's going to be a mirror of the previous bot lane matchup, which worked out actually fairly well for RoughNeX, but I feel like it was mostly because the Given made a couple of small mistakes. So now the question is what they choose to run in that top lane against Jax. Last time their top lane was honestly being pushed back all the time. Not a such situation they wanted. But if they choose to get that Jarvan, which they're hovering over, and then put Aatrox top, that's not a good matchup against Jax unless you can snowball it early. And I don't feel like it's a safe bet to say that you can snowball any specific lane easily with that Jarvan, because you've got amazing on Lee Sin. That's such a scary counter ganker, but it looks like that's what they're going to be going for. Aatrox will be going in the top lane against Jax. I know Copenhagen Wolves did manage that themselves once, but we'll see how that works out.
And you look at the team from Copenhagen Wolves as well. It's such a slippery lineup to gank. Jax can just leap strike away. Fizz is just, well, Fizz with the playful trickster. And then bot lane, 30 caliber net and also Thresh. So Thresh, in a nutshell, is just a go-away character, pushes away junglers' ganks. I can't really see how Jarvan the Fourth here is going to get in contention and make big plays in the laning phase. It's going to be very difficult for him to lock anyone down.
Yeah, that is the good side of Jarvan the Fourth, though, in general. Because Jarvan the Fourth, it transitions a little bit better than most of those early aggressive ganking junglers. He isn't under as much pressure to make those early plays. The only problem, though, is that RoughNeX have again got themselves into a bit of a situation where, if left to their own devices, both of the solo lanes will probably go Copenhagen Wolves' way in the long term. Might take them a little bit of time, might take them till level 6, till level 9, but it will happen eventually if he does not get those ganks done. And as you mentioned, they're very, very slippery lanes. Bot lane, anyone's game. We'll just see how that goes. But there's a lot of pressure on Moath this game. Regardless though, guys, we will be going into a quick delay. There is 2 minutes 30 left on the timer in the client. So we'll be just going into a break while we get that done and while we get for the game to load. So ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you after this. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. RoughNeX versus Copenhagen Wolves is already underway. Coutard has had a flag to the face. Lee Sin has thrown out a cue to Moath. Both teams know they're there. I am Spuddington, joined by Metters.
Hey Spud, hey viewers, this could be the last game of tonight's proceedings if Copenhagen Wolves can pick up the victory here. So definitely an interesting game. Best of three. First game, of course, as I just said, went to Copenhagen Wolves, and RoughNeX are going to try their utmost best to claw this game back. They do have a slightly better composition, I would say, from game number one. However, you look at the champions that Copenhagen Wolves currently have, it's very scary to play against this team. If you get to late game against this squad, you're going to get absolutely devastated by the amount of burst damage they actually possess.
Yeah, they have the combination of a very long-range, safe AD carry with good base attack speed. They've got the Fizz Burst, they've got the split push from Jax. Yes, Lee Sin won't transition quite as amazingly as the rest of his team, but it's not going to matter. They've got a lot of crowd control, a lot of damage, and a lot of utility. It's just they've got everything late game. Early game, however, Young Buck is probably not going to be able to beat Mikey Art straight up in that one-on-one at top. We'll see how that goes, but I imagine Young Buck will take at least a while to get his feet in that lane. Coutard in the mid lane, not going to have an easy time against Ahri, and it's in this phase that RoughNeX really need to make stuff happen. They start to fall behind, they actually end up losing momentum. That is really the danger sign.
For sure, and we were actually casting myself and Pulse earlier on with TCM and Lowland Lions, the identical matchup at top lane. It was Koi, I believe, on Jax, and Murso actually on the Aatrox. Now Aatrox was crushing Jax on farm by about 40 in the laning phase, but as soon as Jax picked up the Triforce and Blade of the Ruined King, it suddenly became the complete opposite. The two junglers have just met one another, and Moarth will force Amazing out of his jungle as Ahri comes around from the side. Not too sure what Amazing's play is here. Actually fires in the Q, caught out of position, Charm comes in, forces the flash away, as Mikey R did make his way down towards bot as well, mid I should say, so there's a flash gone from Amazing.
Well, we'd like to draw your attention a little bit to bot though. Stratagas is having a heck of a time. He actually took a combo from Unlimited that pretty much brought him down to 25% health from full. That was an incredibly well played little combo back down there at bottom, and it's meant now that he is having a lot of trouble getting back the minions to get his sustain up. So he is having to rely on the Sona heals. He is fortunate, I think, in this occasion that it is a Sona, so there are some heals to actually give him.
And this is why, in a nutshell, Sona is such a good pick against Caitlyn, because Caitlyn's main strengths are poking, harassment, and trying to be a bully in lane, whereas Sona is like the complete answer to that equation. I will just spam heals, and you should be okay. I'm keeping an eye on mid though, as both junglers are eyeing up the mid laners, but it doesn't look like anyone's going to make that first move, and actually Jarvan is going into the opposition jungle, so Moarth playing aggressive, going to be trying to pick up these wolves.
That could be very, very dangerous if he ends up fighting against Amazing. He spotted the Q there, and he's going to be legging it, I imagine. It's not a fight he wants. In a sustained fight with Amazing, I just don't see Moarth winning.
Yeah, and he is in no man's land as well, so it's much easier for Kautar to negotiate his way around back into his jungle quicker than Ahri can. So you do see Kautar now coming up. They're trying to get some revenge for that previous burnt flash that Lee had to do. Flagging and dragging away Dogfight as well. The maneuverability paying dividends for RoughNeX. They both managed to escape.
That does give Tyrannus a little bit of time to get a little bit of extra experience to push out this wave in the mid lane, but that does mean in turn that Moarth is a little bit lower than Amazing on health. Amazing feels perfectly safe walking into his jungle. Actually, I think was looking for Moarth, and if he found him would have gone for the kill, but he's going to be okay. We'll be actually just going to steal those raids.
Unlimited is so good on Thresh, but it's forcing Stratagas away again just by landing a death sentence out of nowhere, or Valkyrieing away and managing to survive, and his barrier is down. So had that of Valkyrie not been available, he surely would have died there at bot lane. Piltover Peacemaker coming up as well from Caitlyn, and Stratagas is really hanging on by a thread. Caitlyn absolutely crushing him. Look at that CS differential, 39 to 15 at 5 minutes. That's colossal.
Oh boy, and Nico's been caught.
He has, but they're too close to the tower for Copenhagen Wolves to really jump on top of that and claim that kill and finalize it. Top lane, however, Amazing is hiding in the bushes, so maybe waiting for Mikey R to dark flight in so he blows his escape. There we go, actually going back once the counter-strike comes up from Youngbuck.
This is actually not the way this bot lane, which is a mirror matchup, remember, to the way it was last game, went. Last time, Corki kept getting those good all-in engages. He was able to utilize the greater burst damage and trading potential that Corki has. This game though, he's been on the back foot from level 1, and that has meant that he's never been able to get in that situation. And Caitlyn is so good if you get in that trap. If you get pushed up against your tower and you're too low to get near the minions because you're afraid of Caitlyn's poke, and you're too afraid to go near Caitlyn herself because you're too low. You just get in this horrible, horrible position where you're pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, and the fact that you're pushed back makes it harder to push forward. Nico ended up running out of mana, and he couldn't keep Stratagas in that lane. That just means that now Corki kind of needs to make something happen if he possibly can with level 6 when it comes.
It's going to be very difficult because if they go anywhere near Caitlyn, she's going to outtrade, has a pickaxe already, so that's a big amount of AD over Stratagas. And as you're saying before, you don't want to approach Caitlyn, and you can't go in those bushes because then Thresh going to be there. Mid lane, however, Tyrannus is going heavy onto Kautar. The Chum of Waters does land, however, on Ahri, and is forced to back away with both the junglers coming in to lend a supporting hand.
Fortunate there for Ahri. Oh boy, actually they're in bot lane.
Bot lane's not looking too good. Another death sentence has landed, living up to its name. That's going to be first blood to the AD carrier forgiven. So going from bad to worse, not just the massive difference in CS, but now that first blood. Top lane, both ignites have been used, and all hell breaks loose globally on the map. And in amongst all of the chaos comes a bit of calm and clarity for Moarth. He's like, okay, everyone's dying around me or close to death. Just steal away this blue. Why the hell not?
free blues that will actually mitigate Coutard, but Amazing is actually doing the parallel maneuver, so it's actually not going to achieve very much. Coutard will get his blue, Ari will not be getting his. That is not good. That means Coutard now has the freedom to get aggressive and use playful tricks to escape, or vice versa whenever he wants. Ari, on the other hand, not going to have that infinite poke from the Orb of Deception spam, and it looks like this bottom tower is going to fall. This lane has now definitely gone a lot more in the favour of Copenhagen Wolves, in spite of being exactly the same matchup.
Oh, as a main bot myself, I normally play support or AD. This is brutal to watch, honestly. It's more than double CS in Caitlyn's favour, a first blood and a tower. Corki cannot get anywhere near his CS right now, or he will get poked to death. He's level 5 and only just turned level 5. The Given's already halfway through 6. So the difference in his bot lane is just astronomical. And that's going to force Moarth at some point to have to focus bot. There you can see the box coming down. Nika has been completely crushed from thrashing Caitlyn and has to back away. It's not even close to 6. The crescendo, the big power play from Sona, is not available yet.
A rare mistake though by Unlimited, which actually saved Sona's life, is that he whiffed with the box. He got the death sentence and he kind of did the flay, but he did not actually hit anything with his box, so it just kind of sat there looking very pretty. That had hit the 99% slow on Sona, probably would have resulted in her death when coupled with the damage component. Small saving grace, and it keeps Sona in XP range, keeps Corki in farming range, but yeah, as you mentioned, not a good matchup. Jarvan hanging around this top lane though, and Youngbuck is actually getting quite low. This could be the next point where RoughNeX try to make something happen.
And they have to, right? They have to punish one of these other lanes because their bot lane is spiraling out of control. They forced Youngbuck's flash just previously. Mikear jumped in with the Dark Flight, has just gone in again. So realizing he was vulnerable, Youngbuck doing a smart thing, backing away. No point dying and losing the tower if you can so help it. And actual fact, Thresh is coming up to top lane with Forgiven. So they may be just switching this one up and realizing that yes, we've crushed bot, but Jax is kind of vulnerable right now. We'll try and even the odds at top lane and get ourselves even more farm. Death sentence comes through. It's not going to land, however. And again, flagging and dragging and just start flighting away.
There was also a little bit of a play in mid lane there. Tyrannus was very, very good effectively there against Coutard. Coutard threw out his ultimate first, landed the fish, but in top lane there is another engage.
Oh, and Limited, you are so out of position right now, and he has been punished, and in fact it looks like Forgiven will be too. Barrier comes up, how much damage can he do? How much maneuverability can you pull out the bag? Ace in the hole comes out, Mikey, will not be going down as Jarvan. Good guy Jarvan sacrifices his own life, maybe not expecting that much burst damage from the BF sword and pickaxe of Caitlyn, and does fly down. Amazing gets the kickback on Mikey as he pops into the blood well. Does he have enough damage? Yes, he does, and they pick up the kill off the back of it.
Mistakes were made by Moarth there. That was one of those decisions where after you make it, you just think, oh, I need somebody to blame for this. Yeah, you, jungler. No, but but regardless, very, very good play by Copenhagen Wolves over there, just turning that around, and Forgiven in particular there, just kiting it out, making sure no one could kill him. But I want to go back to that little play that we did actually, I think, miss in the mid lane. Tyrannus was able to turn it around in a situation very much like this, actually.
Yes, but it looks like he could be falling this time. Charm comes out, however, so it's worth the playful trickster away, and Ari should be just fine. And in fact, the rest of RoughNeX are going to be going on to Dragon here. Thresh is around alongside Youngbuck, so they could look for a play. From the Waters, Flash and Ignite are all down for Coutard, and as soon as they see Youngbuck and Thresh come through, they start to back on off. Stratagas was caught out of position, but he does have the Valkyrie, and will get back safely towards Tribush.
Yeah, nice little disengage by RoughNeX there, taking advantage of that ledge and the fact that all of the members of Copenhagen Wolves that were in the area were melee. So them getting over that ledge meant that Copenhagen Wolves either had to commit really, really hard or let them go, and Copenhagen Wolves took the safer of the two options there. Didn't want to have to kind of run through that very narrow area either with Ari there. However, Copenhagen Wolves will take advantage of the fact they pushed them out. They will take that tower. Now they have the capability to push towards that dragon if they want it. They've certainly got vision control in this jungle if you look at the number of wards.
That they definitely do. And it's important to mention as well that, you know, we were talking about how well Forgiven was playing that bot lane, but Caitlyn does counter Corki. It is revered as a fairly strong counter, because Corki's a fairly short-range AD carry, and Caitlyn is one of the biggest AD carries in terms of range. So you put them together, it's a bit of a recipe for disaster for Corki. It's again one of the reasons they picked up the Sona. However, it has just gone very, very one-sided at bot lane. Corki is going to need to farm up for quite a considerable amount of time. This is allowing Copenhagen Wolf to just camp at this lane, and that's going to be another kill to Forgiven, looking like it could very well be a blue as well, as he goes unstoppable. It is going to be amazing taking that one out. Tyrion is actually engaging off this, missing the charm, and forced to back away. And that's because of how weak bot lane is, that Copenhagen Wolves can afford to just poke in the opposition jungle whenever they so choose.
Yeah, very nicely played there by Amazing. I think he was actually deliberately holding on to his safeguard to wait for Ahri's charm there to dodge that, get himself out of there. Nice little touches of play there. But yeah, Copenhagen Wolves firmly in control of the game. Going to be getting that blue out of the counter now. Jax is getting strong, and Aatrox, yes, he's maybe a tiny bit ahead of him individually, but I think the global goal will probably make up for that. So now we're getting to that point you saw earlier with yourself and Pulse. Aatrox is probably no longer able to 1v1 Jax. That's where you get to scary parts, because Jax can continue to split push, he can continue to apply pressure to the lanes, and anyone that tries to roam therefore gets into the danger zone with the Thresh hooks, with the Fizz over the wall, and with the Lee Sin over the wall.
Very true, and also the fact that, you know, going back to this point, the bot lane for Copenhagen Wolves is so far ahead, Amazing can now afford effectively to just focus mid and top more. He can afford to start roaming top and potentially camping it if Aatrox gets out of position. So that is taking a lot of pressure off the shoulders of both Coutard and also Youngbuck. And Youngbuck's just having a field day. He's like, great, you know, minions are pushing my tower all day long. I'm going to take this farm, finish off my Triforce, get my Blade of the Ruined King, and hey, presto, I'm suddenly an immortal Jax who will kill everybody 1 versus 5 and not really care too much. Ace in the Hole comes out from Caitlyn. Also, the death sentence has landed courtesy of Unlimited, but they have no follow-up, they have no jungler near them. Amazing is trying to pick up his red buff right now. It looks like this tower will be just fine, as it hasn't taken too much damage.
And I just want to note actually another small point here. Forgiven this game, you may notice his build is actually converging on a very similar end point to the last game, but this time he has not opted to go for that early static shift. It's because he's having a much easier time in the lane, but there is an engaging mid.
That was some really nice mechanical play from Tyrannus, dodging out the way the Chum the Waters, firing in the Charm as well. Fizz is taking a lot of damage here, jumping back in again, will be dying from Tyrannus. This could be their saving grace right now. RoughNeX, however, that being said, Tyrannus has gone down. Meanwhile, a bot lane, you've got all hell breaking loose as Corki has got the shutdown gold on Caitlyn, now going in for seconds. Unlimited looking precarious underneath his tower. Will they go with the big one? Yes, they will. Flash in from Aatrox to pick up the pieces. Mikey R does have his Bloodwell pop, but definitely worth it from his perspective. And Moath did manage to escape by the skin of his teeth in mid. So actually, that power play really paying out dividends for RoughNeX. Corki's back in this now.
Yeah, that actually gives them a significant advantage. And like you say, it was brilliant play by Tyrannus in that engage. He dodged out of the way of so many things in a single dodge. It was very impressive to watch, but Mikey R could be in trouble.
He definitely could, as a Sonic Wave and Resonating Strike are both connected. Mikey R will be falling. Remember, his Bloodwell was utilised before, in fact, will he? He got that last proc of the lifesteal and got the Dark Flight away. But, unfortunately, from his perspective, Youngbuck flashed in, ignited, and picked up the kill.
It always throws people off, that Aatrox heal, because it's so spiky. It's unlike most heals are kind of, they're not necessarily over time, but stuff like lifesteal, it's, you know, auto attack, you get a constant amount of health, auto attack, you get a constant amount of health. Aatrox is 1-0, 1-0. 3, you just get, and I just counted 1-1-3, but and then you just suddenly get this big spike of health, because below half health it's like tripled. It's a massive chunk of health you suddenly get, and you think he's dead. And that actually sometimes saves his life, because people are like, okay, I don't need to focus any more damage on him, he's pretty much dead, and then suddenly he's got another 100 health.
Yeah, and actually I'm keeping an eye on mid and bottom at the same time because action is breaking loose. Tyrannus forced to Spirit Rush away from the waters did land. Here comes Amazing from the side, kicking him back towards his own jungle. He's not going to get to that tower. Here comes the kill. There we go. Kautar just playful trickstering away, making sure the Orbital Deception does not claim the kill. Meanwhile though, Stratogas and Nico are coming around from the side, but actually the wrong side from their perspective. Ace in the Hole comes through, absolutely chunks Zona, but here's John from the fourth from the side, and Young Buck jumping in with Leap Strike and Counter Strike as well. So Forgiven trying his best to clean up the kill on Moab. Looks like they'll do just that. Young Buck picks up that kill. That's a 2-for-0 trade.
RoughNeX, yes, they are kind of actually acquitting themselves pretty well here, but it definitely feels like they're falling behind again now. They are going to have to deal with this big pressure in the mid lane. Stratogas is there, and Lykiar is there. Blades of Torment, Phosphorus Bomb, they've got decent wave clears, so not a huge concern, but they are being pushed back and back and back still. And it's only going to get worse. As we mentioned right at the start of this game, Copenhagen Wolves have such a strong late game team, and it's only going to scale up. It doesn't have a mid game doldrums period. I mean, Caitlyn maybe, but not anything too significant, and she's 3-1-2 with the Bloodthirster nearly going for that Shiv. She is dangerous right now, and Lykiar maybe in danger.
Well, he got the Golem, but again you got this big play coming out from Amazing. Darkflight and Massacre both utilised Job the 4 from the side. Counter-strike though from Youngbuck, jumping back on Aatrox, who's under a lot of aggravation and will be getting taken down as Youngbuck goes on that killing spree, and that's just going to fund that Trinity Force as well. So bad news from RoughNeX perspective. 3-0 Jax, 3-0 Lee Sin, 3-1 Caitlyn. And you're talking before about scaling off. The only character that really does scale off a tiny bit is Lee Sin, but utility-wise he's still going to be a big threat, Spud, because he can pull off those insect maneuvers, get behind the AD carry of Corki, or potentially Ari, and just knock them back into the team and allow Fizz and Jax to do what they do best, and that's clean house.
And let's face it, Copenhagen Wolves do not need more damage in the late game team fights.
Yeah.
They've got so much potential there. So I do want to just finish off that point I mentioned earlier though. This game you will notice Caitlyn building that Bloodthirster, going for the Last Whisper and going for the Static Shiv. You can see that from the components and the items she's got. But this time she went for a very different order because her laning phase was so much easier. She didn't need to go back and buy cheap components like Dagger and Brawler's Glove. This time, no early Static Shiv. Instead, she's just going to be going for that Bloodthirster, and that will have given her quite a bit more presence in these fights. You can see it in the ace in the hole damage, if nothing else.
Yeah, which unfortunately Job in the fourth found out the worst possible way as Moath blocked that, being a good guy for Mikey R. Lots and lots of damage, and completely correct as well, Spud, because the parameters of what Caitlyn was facing are completely different from this game to the last one, and that's what good players do. They build according to the position and scenario that they're currently in. Tyrannus has just been caught there from the Q of Lee Sin. Ace in the Hole comes through, and no one blocks that for Tyrannus, so it takes quite a chunk of damage. That being said though, with Sona should be healed up just fine very shortly.
Yeah, and there is a fortunate fact in that Ari does have some inbuilt sustain, which I believe is being nerfed in the next patch, but she does have some inbuilt sustain in the form of that Spirit Theft passive. But Copenhagen Wolves once again have managed to take the vision control, and it looks like RoughNeX may just want to clear the wave and then back off if they can, but Copenhagen Wolves are free to run rings around them because, as you can see, there's only 3 wards from RoughNeX in their own jungle right now. If they are, if Copenhagen Wolves back away and go for an objective, RoughNeX are going to have to just kind of guess and call it as to where they've gone.
And, it's hard to see where the plays are going to come from RoughNeX. I feel it's going to have to be a perfect crescendo or cataclysm to lock down these players. But as I said before, there are so many escapes. Pretty much every character has a potential escape on the cards from a cataclysm. Maybe barring Crash, but if he can land a death sentence on a minion, he can also escape. And everyone else has inbuilt escape mechanics to get out of Cataclysm. Ace in the Hole comes out again. This time Moath will be blocking that one for his compadre, and they do pull themselves back. So, Spud, how do you think RoughNeX can bounce back? The gold difference is getting kind of scary. It's over 5,000 gold now. And positionally, they're well and truly behind. They're constantly on the back foot.
If they can get a good engage onto Forgiven right now,
Yes, and they're going to be trying to jump in with Tyrannus taking point unlimited. Let's throw down the Dark Passage, and Forgiven was forced to flash a 90 caliber net away. That's what I'm talking about. They've got so much escapability. It's very difficult to lock them down.
That is definitely true, but with that flash down, if they could get another engage roughly equivalent to that, Tyrannus won't have ultimate for the next one, but he will have that a long time before that flashes back up. If they can get that good engage, although Young Buck could have potentially jumped over that wall, if they can get a good engage, kill Caitlyn at the start, and avoid having Cowtard go on like a beast mode cleanup, they can potentially win something, but the lobster goes in.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to feel this one out, and now here comes the big engage, box goes down, Crescendo comes through, completely neutralizing, amazing, but the damage has already been done. Young Buck pops the passive from Mikey onto Bloodwell, is no longer up and available. Ignite comes down, that's going to be a dead Aatrox. Meanwhile, can Tyrannus pick up the pieces? They're all 4 players. Karthus, please press that R button. That would be a quadra kill in the making, but the important part is it's a 4-for-1 trade, and this could definitely put itself in this top tower falling as well.
Another tower going to fall for Copenhagen Wolves. Very, very close, but that was the slipperiness you mentioned earlier coming into its own. If you get low as a member of Copenhagen Wolves team, you can almost always get out. Although you will notice now, almost every single one of their champions has now used their flash. So a lot of get out of jail free cards used. Young Buck going to be taking the lantern for no readily apparent reason, but he's going to be just going on back anyway. And Tyrannus finding amazing, but I don't think anyone's actually going to die here. Basically, RoughNeX, now they actually do have maybe a small advantage in terms of summoner spells. If they can catch Forgiven, maybe they could win a team fight. If not, they just need to be aggressive, kind of balls to the wall and take a lot of risks and just try and get some vision control back and try and get some picks off.
But the true terror is starting to take shape, and his name is Young Buck on Jax. Trinity Force, Bilgewater Cutlass, and a dagger. He's not very far away from that Blade of the Ruined King, and there is nobody on the side right now from RoughNeX that can stand toe-to-toe with Jax in a 1v1 or even 1v2, I have to feel, duel to the death. He is going to run rampant in these team fights, or he can just afford to push a lane, to pick a lane and push it and say, okay guys, I'm going to push bot, the rest of you go Baron. They're going to have to come down to contend with me, or I'm going to take an inhib and potentially a Nexus tower. And that could definitely be a play that Young Buck goes for in the next few minutes.
Yeah, I think for now Mikey R is capable of holding a tower against Jax one-on-one. He has got that Ravenous Hydra. When he's got that passive up, he can't reasonably be dived. And good wave clear coupled with his relatively strong duelist potential means it won't be easy for the Young Buck to just dive him and kill him. It won't be easy for him to ignore him and take that tower, but it looks like they may just find the fight instead.
Yeah, flag and drag from Moath will get him back to his own tower. But so much ward coverage from Copenhagen Wolves. The whole jungle is pretty much warded off right now. Then RoughNeX are going to try and make a play, seeing Fizz at top lane. Fizz does not have teleports. It's going to take him a while to get back into this one. But it just goes to show how strong Young Buck is, that they're turning tail and running 4 versus 5. This is not looking good from RoughNeX's perspective. They're now completely committed to this fight. Tyrannus jumping in, double kill coming out from Forgiven. He's looking for his triple. Will be picking up the triple. And will he actually manage to get any more here? Ace and Hole comes across, Fizz round from the side, who finally decides to grace his team with his presence as Chum the Waters lands on Corki's head. Corki is going to die very quickly, and in fact they're going for that 5th kill on Mikey R, and they pick it up. That, ladies and gents, was a 4 versus 5 for the first 90% of that fight, and it's a 5-on-1 trade.
Yeah, Copenhagen was doing really well there, but it was also not the best engage from RoughNeX. You'll actually see Crescendo is still up from Sona, barely able to do anything in that fight. Ari jumped in to try and take out Forgiven, but there were too many minions for him to reliably land the charm. Forgiven did a very good job of kiting his way around the fight. It's just not something you can afford to do against Copenhagen Wolves. In this situation, they needed to find a good engage. They were so desperate to do so, but they just couldn't. They overcommitted. Their bruisers and their assassins were dead before their AD carry could really do anything, and they were not in a position to clean that up. RoughNeX further and further on the back foot the longer this goes on, and it's really, really looking bad for Nico.
Well, goodbye, Nico. Nice knowing you. Just a couple of ultimates, chum the waters, ace in the hole, and you are dead for the next 25 seconds. Just in time for Coutard and Copenhagen Wolves to pick up yet another objective. That is going to be a free dragon for them, and they do escalate even further ahead by nearly 13,000 gold at 27 minutes. That, I feel, is potentially an insurmountable amount of gold to come back from.
Yeah, this is... okay, starting is no longer the word. This is continuing to look very, very bad for them. RoughNeX are still, you know, just somehow in contention because they seem to do a very, very good job on the defensive of holding on to their towers at all costs. But what we saw last game was Copenhagen Wolves getting far enough ahead that they just dived. They dived in a 5-on-5 and they didn't care because they were so strong. That game, admittedly, they did have a Renekton, who is probably one of the best diving champions in the game, just because you build him as a pure tank and he still does decent damage. Coutard could get caught.
He has been caught from Ari now. It's actually picked up the kill, so Tyranids is trying desperately to get a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel, and that's a good way of starting, but there's still, it's a drop in the ocean spot, they're still so far behind. Yes, Fizz, yes, Coutard's going to be dead for 35 seconds, but there's Zona getting absolutely crushed from Caitlyn, and that pretty much just tells the story of this game thus far, but the burst damage from Caitlyn, from Forgiven, both games has just been off the charts.
Yeah, it's worrying when you get one comboed by an AD carry. That was only like 2 auto attacks and then just some abilities. As it happens, looking again even worse, but Youngbuck's just dancing around in their base and he barely even cares.
And Forgiven just got 2 or 3 auto attacks in Moath and took him down to about a third of his hit points. That's Jarvan. He's one of the tankiest players on their team, indeed the game, and Caitlyn's just cutting through him like he's not even there. So there's really nobody that can stand toe-to-toe with Caitlyn right now. There's so much damage being output, and the kind of engaging potential from Copenhagen and Wolves, even in a 4 versus 5, is way stronger than RoughNeX can deal with. So this is just allowing Coutard to put final nails in the coffin. He's just going to push bot lane, and RoughNeX dent go in against this 4-man team of Copenhagen Wolves. They're just too strong.
Yeah, it's worrying when that kind of situation occurs, and really the only way RoughNeX can get anything done now is opportunistic picks, like we saw before with Tyranids catching out Fizz, but they need several of those picks in a row, or one of those picks to then lead into an advantageous team fight, and you can see how scared they are now. They're checking out that Baron buff area, they're trying to get some vision to make sure they will at least have some warning, because Copenhagen Wolves are remarkably skilled when it comes to rushing and sneaking Barons, but if anyone gets caught by them, they could be in a lot of trouble.
Curd Ace in the hole comes through, and that's half of Tyranids' health just disintegrating before his team's eyes. Going back to what you were saying before about picks, the problem that RoughNeX face right now is even if they do get a pick here or there, they are unable to convert it into an objective because they're always on the back foot. So even if Copenhagen Wolves lose a player or 2 players, it's a case of RoughNeX thinking, well, what can we do now? And the answer is not a great deal, because Copenhagen Wolves individually, on a talent, in fact, hold that thought, because all hell just broken loose. Crescendo and Cataclysm very well put together, but it's too little too late. The amount of damage coming out from Copenhagen Wolves is more than enough to deal with this. But that being said, 2-for-2 trade thus far. Amazing is flashing up red, but an AD carry that's as fed as Caitlyn is right now is on the prowl. Gonna pick up 1 kill alongside Fizz. Fizz jumping in, look at the burst damage on Corki. That is a very dead Yordle. And now they're going in on Tyranids, who's going to get Chum the Waters on the backside. Is it enough burst damage? Yes, it is. Does manage to claim the kill back. That's a 5-for-4 trade with Forgiven standing tall. That's probably, in fact, definitely going to convert into an inhib.
Definitely an inhib, but very, very nicely fought by RoughNeX, I have to say. The only thing that went wrong for them there was they just stayed a little bit too long at the end, thinking, can we fight this 3-on-3 when they got that 2-for-2 trade? Should have backed out after that situation arose, but even after that, they still did a remarkably good job of just kind of making those clutch plays. Copenhagen Wolves are an incredibly good team, and we know they are. RoughNeX are proving themselves to be maybe not quite as good thus far, but still very, very good, and they are actually still just clinging on by some fingernails tied to some hair. They are just clinging on to the game. because of beautiful engages like that Jarvan Aatrox combo.
Oh, this is maybe a way to get themselves a tiny bit closer. I thought they were going to jump helmet for leather on Unlimited, but Amazing is just hiding around the side, so wouldn't have been the smartest of plays. However, RoughNeX are going for this Baron. They've started it off. Unlimited can kind of sense what's going on right now. Instantly they come off it. They've took quite a bit of damage though, but Aatrox is taking point, and you know, in all fairness, they're going to be engaging right now. Caitlin's out of position, but the engage stops as quick as it started. Mikeyar's taking a lot of damage from the Jump the Waters, and Fizz, he's instantly going down. Boxer down a position from Unlimited. Uncharacteristic from him to miss something like that, but the rest of his team is more than strong enough to push back RoughNeX, and with 2 players in the Death Chamber for 35 seconds, they may very well try and pick this Baron up. They do need to be careful though, because Tyrannus is lurking around the sides, does get a charm and an Orbital Deception, and will back off.
Tyrannus is actually now being chased down by 2 people with mobility boots. He has to go in.
He does, he's got the Spirit Rush. I think he's got one more charm stack on this. He's going to go back through again on Amazing, but Fizz's burst damage is just way too much to contend with. And that is another pick on Tyrannus, who just hung around for a tiny bit too long. He was unwelcome. Caitlin's pushing the top lane by herself right now, while the rest of the team is actually picking up the Baron, going legendary, now turning onto Stratogas. The damage is absolutely ridiculous. Has an Infinity Edge added to the last Whisper Static Shift Bloodthirster. As I'm speaking, Baron goes down, and now Forgiven is on a 1 versus 1 against Jarvan, just shredding through him and picks up the free kill.
Oh dear, that was a questionable decision there by Jarvan to he chose that fight against Caitlyn one-on-one there. And I just don't even... He did not really have the damage potential there to take her out. Definitely now looks like RoughNeX are on their last legs. Going for the hooks here, but even if they don't get them, they will be able to take down these towers in relatively short order. 2 inhibs down, 3rd inhib likely to be falling soon. Tyrannus would have to play the God game where he killed everyone all at once, and even then it wouldn't make that much of a difference in the long run. Copenhagen Wolves are going to take this game, I'm sure of it.
John the Waters goes in, actually. Scumbag Mikeyar thought flights into the rest of his team. The Jump the Waters hits everybody, and that is going to be the GG. The 2-0 scoreline coming up from Copenhagen Wolves, just showing that they are on top of their game right now. A lot of people questioning how they'd factor in when Shook and Reckless were no longer a part of their roster. The answer is very comfortably. They've played phenomenally well here, Spud, actually. Very impressive.
Yeah, but I've got to give some serious shout-outs to RoughNeX as well. I think they did a remarkably good job of holding off Copenhagen Wolves, who played it very well themselves. Just a couple of small lane rotation things, and the fact that their bot lane this game did not do very well. And I think, honestly, the biggest thing that RoughNeX need to work on here is their champion select. It felt like they got outpicked in that so very hard in both of the 2 games we saw from them tonight. So maybe they'll make some strides in the future. I would certainly like to see them again in other tournaments, like for instance the US Challenger Series. But they are a very, very solid team. And I've also got to give special shout outs there to Tyrannus, because he played a really good Ahri game coming in from behind.
That's very true, yeah. And, you know, it's a case where Copenhagen Wolves, you only get 3 bans, and they're a very, very difficult team to ban out, because Unlimited Thresh is definitely worthy of a ban. Lee Sin on Amazing, Elise he can play with, Aatrox he can play with. You just saw their Fizz as well on Coutard is very strong, so it's such a difficult team to ban out. But I feel that going for the Corki Sona, without banning Caitlyn or Thresh, they must have expected that they'd go and rinse and repeat in that bot lane. And that bot lane, especially in number 2, was brutal to watch. That was a colossal amount of difference at the 10-minute mark. And Corki never really recovered from that position, Spud. That he was always second best in terms of AD carries going into those team fights. Forgiven was basically 1 versus 4ing people at some points, and Corki couldn't even 1v1.
Yeah, it's one of those unfortunate things. If you fall behind, it's very hard to do anything in bot lane. But I think a lot of that snowballing bot lane was just straight up due to Unlimited. I don't know if you caught it, and I don't know if we caught it on the camera, but at level 1, he made a really good play, and he did a ton of damage. Got Corki down to like 20% health, and from then on, he was just pushed up against his tower, and that pressure never let up until he died. Regardless, though, guys, that is it from us tonight. That was the second quarterfinal, I believe, of the Riot Turkey International Invitational. And we will have some more games coming up tomorrow, I believe. So do stay tuned to the channel for that. I will personally be going to MCM though tomorrow, so I probably won't be available for the future casting of this tournament. So if you have enjoyed my casting, do feel free to follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Spuddington, or at Spuddington if you want. Facebook.com/SpuddingtonCasts is my Facebook page. Metas, do you have anything?
I do, but first I would ask if you guys, fine ladies and gents, would follow the stream, bottom left of your screen right now. As Spud said before, we are casting another 3 days of the Riot Turkey International Invitational. So, obviously, you want to be following the stream so you're kept up to date with all that glorious action. And if you like my casting, then you can follow me on Twitter at MetasTV, or on Facebook, that's facebook.com/MetasTV as well. I believe, Ruben, do of course interrupt me and correct me if I'm wrong, but do we have reruns coming up? He says not sure, which isn't a great answer, to be fair, because, okay, well, we'll just see. When we go offline, if there's reruns, then hey, if there's reruns. If not, then boo. Yeah. Well, he'll upload them to YouTube, which is /Chaos Contingency on youtube.com. So, either way, I think that's going to do it for us, Spud. Do you have any final words before we do go offline?
Nothing much except to say congratulations to Copenhagen Wolves and commiserations to RoughNeX.